Hi there. So after some comments about whether SSD cache is worth it on Synology 918 Plus, I've decided to do some videos about whether SSD cache with iSCSI is worth it and what benefits there are, because some preliminary tests suggested that it's really beneficial potentially. So I found this article on Atlantis Community Computing. I haven't heard about this site, to be honest, before, but there's a good description on some method to test VDI and hypervisor and iSCSI storage. So I followed these tests. There is all these settings. I post a link below so you can have a look for yourself. It's a bit older, from 2013, but I think it's still relevant and still represents some, it still gives an idea of a test. Regarding setup, I'm running this on DS916 Plus because my DS918 Plus is my main one and I didn't want to remove the drives. Try pretty much a vanilla setup without SHR, just 2 drives or 4 drives in RAID 5 or 6 configuration. So I decided, or instead opt in for my other existing Synology 916 Plus that I just wiped. And I only have, because it doesn't have M.2 SATA slots for dedicated cache, I opt in instead for 2 drives in plain RAID 1 scenario, which should be much faster on ext4 as well, rather than ButterFS. And my 2 drives are 220, 240 gig SanDisk and Samsung SSDs. I didn't have 2 of the same ones, so I think there's going to be a bit of a impact. Samsung would provide better speed and better increase, but I think for this purpose it'll matter because, as usually, most of the time we have to use what we have. So for my test system, I'm using Supermicro motherboard with 6700 core CPU, clocked at 3.4, 16 gig of RAM, and I'm running Server 2016 with Hyper-V installed on it. I have 3 virtual machines, but I'm running only one, Windows 10 Enterprise, the latest version 1803. Dynamic RAM, so only 2.5 gig is assigned. As you can see, this is my iSCSI, goes to my Synology Discovery, and you can see the volume is D, and this drive settings, my drive is located on the D drive itself, so perfect. So this is the first test without any cache, so let's see how it fares. Now that's done, let's see how it fares with cache enabled. Okay, this is the IO meter based on that article that I mentioned earlier. Settings are loaded, so let's hit it. Okay, the test has completed successfully, and I think the results look pretty promising. Results are in, as you can see. Top 1 results, no SSD cache. Below, with the SSD cache, and it's phenomenal. Pretty much you're getting double performance, sometimes even more, sometimes a bit less. But read IOPS, you've got 201, so read IOPS means output operations per second. 201, that's pretty much your average disk drive, so that's pretty average. But with the SSD cache, you get 411, 412. It's really good. Transactions per second, 2000. With SSD cache, 1000, so pretty much double speed increase. Average response, 15 millisecond, and 7.7, almost 8 milliseconds with SSD cache. That's twice as low, which is pretty phenomenal when you think about it. I'll post them in the description so you can download and draw your own comparison. So there you go. I think iSCSI is pretty much worth it. It'll improve your performance. I was running 3 VMs on my Hyper-V setup, and I could definitely tell a difference in response time. It was much more effective and smooth, but I didn't want to post those results because they're obviously influenced by my Supermicro motherboard and my other things. And my lack of memory, I only have 16 gig of RAM, so I had to use dynamic RAM and stuff like that. So I didn't want to do that. So I think this test is more representative with more numbers, and it gives you much better idea of what sort of increase you're looking at, rather than being so vague. So this will give you exact numbers, and you can see that it's pretty much double increase in the speed, which I think is great. One thing that you might need to consider is how much SSD cache you will need. If you are running several servers, this will obviously be higher, but according to that article that I mentioned earlier, you will need at least some of the virtual RAM that you have. So if you have a server that has 32 gig of RAM, I would definitely have at least 32 gig for that server reserved. So if you have 5 servers running each 32 gig, then you need about 200 gig or so. So that would be my recommendations and the conclusions. Hopefully this was helpful. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have another idea or recommendation what other Synology tests I could do, let me know in the comments below. I'll see if I can do that. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.